Hi, welcome to 5 Minutes with Bo Hansen. Today we're going to be talking about the topic of how to harness your athlete's natural strengths. It's actually a key area that we do a lot of work in because we deal with DISC behavioural profiling. One of the key concepts behind the behavioural profile of DISC is that you have what we call your natural behaviours, which is a little bit like if I was to say, are you left or right-handed? And if I say, hey, I'm right-handed, that would be my most dominant or preferred hand to use for most occasions. It doesn't mean I can't use my left, but I prefer to use my right. And we have the same thing happen with how we like to behave. And one of the key concepts here is that we also have adapted behaviors, and they're behaviors which we tune to the environmental needs or the situation that we're confronted with. And sometimes those behaviors are different to our natural ones. So have you ever watched a game of sport? It might be the under-10s. Like I coach young kids in basketball, and when you're first starting off with them, you throw the ball up and they play a game and everybody tries to score. Everybody tries to dribble. Everybody tries to be the passer or the point guard. Everybody tries to get underneath the hoop and shoot and defend and do all of these things. And no one really has a role. When we talk about natural behaviors, a lot of the focus is on how do we harness somebody's strengths and tune them to a particular role that we want them to play. So it doesn't look like amateur sport and young kids going out there, but you have a specific role. There is someone to bring the ball up. There is someone who positions themselves under the post. There is someone who plays more of a defensive focus. And so we have this clear role demarcation, if you like. And it's one of the main challenges that we face, because unless we understand our athletes extraordinarily well, which we can get from their profile, but to know how they contribute to a team, that to me is the hallmark of what makes a team highly effective, is knowing that this is my job. Your job is different, and we can become more expert at the type of jobs that we want. I think with kids' sport and development opportunities, it's our responsibility as a coach to share those different roles around. And even in my own team that I coach, we always make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to bring the ball up. They're only 10 or 11 years of age. Their role is not going to be that clearly defined. But even for us, as we gravitate towards game day, we can't have an argument or, we can't have indecisiveness over, well, whose job is what? And so we will then just tune people into doing specific roles. When we talk about roles in a sporting team, we're talking more about what your technical role is, which is actually pretty easy to define. But mainly we're talking about what your non-technical role is. So if I look at somebody's profile, and as you know with DISC, we're talking about the dominant style, the interactive or the influencing style, the steady style, and the conscientious style of behavior. Each one of those behavioral preferences has a particular role that they prefer to play on the team. And as I said, this is what we mean by a non-technical role. Non-technical roles could be, for example, do you have players that love to give direction to others? Players that love to set high standards? Players that love to hold other people accountable and will do so just naturally? That's a critical role that the D style of profile likes to play. Now, an I likes to play a role where the interactive style is energetic, they're enthusiastic, they create social cohesion. They're the first ones that want to high-five someone when they've done a great job. They're the first ones to provide praise and encouragement. That also is a critical role. The S's, they're more stable. Those players that are highly reliable in their focus. They have good detail orientation. They listen exceptionally well. They're the ones who give all of the other team members a quiet pat on the back and adding value that way. And then you have the conscientious style. They're the ones that always remember your set plays. They remember the race plan. They remember the game plan. They know the structure that they have to have. And they remember all of their gear, all of the logistics, the stats, the data, the scouting report. Athletes tend to gravitate towards each one of these roles depending upon what their preferred way of behaving is. Now, what we've noticed with athletes, and we've worked with close to 50,000 different profiles of athletes now over many, many years, what we've noticed is that athletes tend to behave, that is, they tend to perform better when they can behave more according to their natural style. And that just makes sense. Like I said before, if my natural behavior is the equivalent of being right-handed, when I go out to play tennis, I'm going to use my right hand. Now, here's the issue. Some coaches don't always understand their players and athletes to the degree to which we would like. And as a result of that, they ask them to perform roles which don't naturally suit how they most prefer to behave. And I had first-hand experience with this as an athlete myself in rowing boats, where You know, I like to give instruction. I love to tell my athletes and my fellow team members what to do. Sometimes a little too much. But I love to call the race plan. I love to have control. And as a result, the seats that I sat in the boat geographically allowed me to do that role. So if I take, for example, a coxless 4, you know, there's no one steering the boat. It's the person who sits at the front or the bow of the boat who steers. I usually occupied 2-seat. And 2-seat, obviously one back, one in front of the bow, I could talk to the person behind me and I could easily talk to the 2 people in front. So that particular position is often occupied by someone who likes to give direction, have authority, tell people what to do, provide some form of directive leadership and instruction, call the race plan, be the coach when the coach is not around. Now, the issue is when someone is given that job who doesn't naturally want to behave that way. They're going to have to think about how to behave that way because they all want to do a good job and they want to please the coach and do what's best for the team. But the more you ask somebody to adapt to a set of behaviors that they're not comfortable with, the more energy it will take. And it is like me going out to play tennis with my non-preferred hand. Hey, I could get okay with it, but it's never going to be my preference. And it takes a lot of effort and energy. And that effort and energy is often better directed towards utilizing whatever their most natural strengths could be. And so that applies for whether you're the point guard in the basketball team and how do you want that player to behave, or whether you're the goalkeeper on a soccer team and is that person going to be the person who likes to give direction and organize the defense. So when you're putting your teams together and you're looking at the makeup of your team and the team dynamic and the players that you've chosen, be really aware of what role they're going to play non-technically. Trying to ask someone who doesn't like to talk, who prefers to be quiet, who likes to give quiet encouragement, to be the most energetic and loudest person on the team is going to act as a significant distractor, which is going to disable them to perform in the way that you'd like them to perform. So our challenge to you is to look a little bit deeper about what behaviors you want from people from a non-technical perspective and try to understand whether they like to behave that way in general, if it's a natural strength for them. And then if it is, to allow them to play that role. Now this is the part of the wider challenge as well. When you recruit a team of people, have you recruited for diversity? Because if your team is not diverse, you end up with the opposite situation where you have too many people that all might like to give direction. For example, you've heard of the issue of too many chefs in the kitchen. Like too many people that want to have their say, want to have control, want to do it their way. Or the other scenario you might get is too many of the interactive style, where you get too much socializing and too much energy and not enough focus. Or too many S's, where things are a little bit too stable and too steady, and no one's calling each other out or holding each other accountable because we all want harmony. As critical as that is, you can have too much of it. Or too many C's, where you have too many people playing a highly structured, organized, analytical type of game. Sticking to the game plan becomes highly predictable and easy to disrupt. So diversity is critical, and that's the beauty of diversity. If it's a diverse team, you get people playing their own natural roles and gravitating to those positions, and hopefully more enjoyable experiences for everyone.